We're the CocoNuts, and we're honored to be the 2024 First Hall of Fame team.
We're excited to share our impact presentation with you. We're recording from our school studio. Thank you, KCHS.
At our actual presentation at Championship, we were dressed in traditional clothing and used a monitor on a cart to present our slides. Here is our presentation.
Hi, I'm Tawny Slade.
Jag är Elena Kloppenstein.
Maru naam Brianna Patalche.
Our crescendos start with us, the students.
Our path will always be a struggle, but we find our reasons to stay.
Because we are the CocoNuts.
And together we've learned
we can do hard things.
We see the struggles we personally experience reflected in our community. Half the CocoNuts are people of color, and many of us didn't have some access growing up. To bring STEM closer to the kids that need it most, we created the Tempienlo para Hacer and Cincinnati People Are the Future STEM Fairs. In the last 3 years, we have reached over 800 kids from Title I elementary schools.
To keep our efforts sustainable, we empower new members to take ownership of our outreach, like a nut trained to take over a STEM fair after only being a member for 3 weeks. Because the CocoNuts are such an integral part of our community, my teacher encouraged me to switch schools and join them. He knew that they could help me reach my fullest potential.
The CocoNuts are tireless in our mission to bring STEM to all. From pasta towers to catapults to junkyard robots, parades to the county fair and the Super Bowl, we have reached 47,000 people at over 100 events in the last 3 years. We are combining our favorite STEM activities in a children's coloring book that is a wonderfully inventive tale of squirrels, robots, and nutty adventures. And last month, Flagstaff recognized us as champions for STEM equity by naming us STEM Community Partner of the Year.
The CocoNuts are FTC's program delivery organization for the entire state of Arizona, a role usually filled by colleges and nonprofits. We allocate funds to all aspects of running a tournament, traveling as a team to events, and training new host teams and volunteers until that tournament has its very own sustainable volunteer base. We keep the cost of AZFTC low and provide a registration relief grant for teams in need. In the last 3 years, we have donated $2,700 to 19 teams.
This season, we created 2 new FTC qualifiers to give rural teams easier access to competition. We've helped teams go from box to bot in less than an hour and created engineering portfolios from scratch. AZFTC has grown exponentially. This year alone, we've had 21 new teams for a total of 87 competing in 10 statewide qualifiers. 48 teams took center stage at our 2-division state championship. Refereeing and queuing at these tournaments has allowed me to become the role model I always wanted. Others can see a successful colored girl in STEM and know that they too can do hard things.
We go the distance to support FIRST at all levels across Arizona. Every team deserves an expert, dedicated coach, but they can be hard to find. So we created FLL in a nutshell to coach coaches on the intricacies of running teams. Nutshell has resulted in 21 new teams in the last 3 years, and attending teachers can earn 12 professional development hours. We mentor 16 FLL and FTC teams in Flagstaff, and in the last 3 years, we've run 34 FIRST events and supported 35 others for a total of 12,500 hours, equivalent to volunteering for almost a year and a half straight.
3 years ago, we began attending the National Advocacy Conference in Washington, D.C., giving us the honor of singly representing the entire state of Arizona. Through meeting with the office of Senators Mark Kelly, Kirsten Sinema, and Representative Elijah Crane, we contributed to the passing of the CHIPS Act and fully funding the Every Student Succeeds Act. CHIPS provides funding for after-school STEM programs nationally and creates new tech jobs in Arizona with a brand new microchip facility. NAC is empowering because we can see how our voices can affect change at a national level.
To address Arizona's number 48 ranking in education funding, we created the Arizona Advocacy Conference. Through NAC, we know that more voices result in greater change. So we rallied 7 other FIRST teams from across the state and trained them in the art of advocacy. Teams worked together to demonstrate robots on the Capitol lawn and met with 18 different legislators.
After a day of discouraging conversations, we walked into our penultimate ACT meeting. We discussed our achievements in FIRST with Representative Cook, and he put CPR and the CocoNuts in the state budget for $30,000 each over the next 3 years. To continue getting teams involved and building relationships with our policymakers, we are hosting the 2nd annual ACT in May. Before joining the CocoNuts, I never imagined advocating about something that matters, but now I know that I can do hard things.
We have seen success with our advocacy efforts, but there are still a lot of barriers to STEM that have more complicated solutions. 36% of all Native American students nationwide drop out of school. Less than 3% of people on an Navajo reservation ever leave because we love our home. Getting an education and coming back is a way I can give back to my people. But since I live on the res, I have to spend over 3 hours on a school bus every day to be part of the CocoNuts. STEM is just not available here.
Only 0.4% of the STEM workforce is Indigenous, so kids on the res never get to see themselves in STEM. Because this is so personal for so many of us, we knew we had to be a part of changing that mindset.
When we met the Navajo Transitional Energy Company, NTEC, we knew we'd finally found an ally in our mission. NTEC had the funds, we had the expertise, together we created Robotics.
Without dedicated mentors, robotics teams fail. So we hosted a hands-on FTC workshop for 40 new res coaches close to home. But we knew our support could not just end there.
Tribal delegates only meet every 3 months, so it is a long and difficult process to get funding. To make it a little bit easier, we advocated to FIRST for rookie grants to cover registration fees, and NTEC sponsored the robot kits for 12 new teams.
Because the Navajo Nation is larger than the state of West Virginia, these teams are hundreds of miles from each other and the nearest tournament. We built a communication network for these coaches so they would have a reliable resource.
However, there is still this long-standing mindset that we don't belong. Res teams feel intimidated by more experienced outside teams. FTC Team Tonkus arrived reluctant to compete, but we empowered them to try. They competed at their next event, but showed up with a bot made of illegal parts. We helped them rebuild their bot and got them ready for their third qualifier.
The CocoNuts hosted the first ever all-indigenous qualifier on the Navajo Nation at Dene College in Saley for over 150 students. By hosting this tournament on the res, we leveled the playing field and reduced travel times for teams by an average of 6 hours. Team Tonkus ended up being captain of the winning alliance, and this is just one example of a res team whose narrative has changed from we can't to we can.
We even got the vice president of the Navajo Nation to come to this tournament. We've begun changing the hearts and minds of not only the students, but also the tribal elders. And to rally Native communities around STEM success, we advocated to FIRST to let us advance the Inspire Award winner, Roxas on Tech, straight to World Championships.
When I became a CocoNut for the first time in my life, it wasn't enough to just show up and participate. I was expected and encouraged to be better. By helping to create Robotics, I am showing my people that they are capable of far more than they believe they are, because we can do hard things. This is the dawn of a new era for STEM education on the reservation. We are applying for grants to fund more teams, recruiting more schools next week, and bridging that cultural gap between the res and FIRST.
Through all of our hard work, every member of this team has had their lives changed.
Who would have thought that my words could show kids that they really could do STEM too?
Who would have thought that a girl from the res could be a Dean's List finalist?
Who would have thought that the little me could drive a Mars rover and see that her dreams are possible?
So take a deep breath. We're going to crescendo again, together, because I can do hard things.
Yego shesnat algo adethya.
Hum sakata vastu kari sake chum.
We can do hard things.